Hey gang. So when I try to do a daily walk anyways, I probably get 5, maybe 6 days in a week. Usually about 5 for sure. Obviously depending on the weather. But I want to give a little update on how things are going. Yeah, I went to the appointment, and there's been a few changes here. Oh, I had to catch my breath for a second there, guys. Okay, let's continue on. I went down to a cardiologist appointment, and before I went down, I called because I thought maybe they're going to be doing this work, these procedures on this appointment. And they said, no, but we need you to come down anyways. Okay. Now, the cardiologist I go to is about 5.5 hours from where I live. It's the University of Michigan hospital. And as I said, it's a little ways from where I live. There is a local hospital, but I don't trust these guys. And I'll tell you why. So, back last winter, late last winter, I'd moved back to the area I grew up. And I had been living in North Dakota. And that's where I had my original pacemaker put in. The one I still have, actually. So anyways, I'm a CDL driver. And I've got to get a yearly exam to renew my CDL. So not only did that happen, but because I moved back to Michigan, I needed to get a cardiologist in this area. So I set one up with our local hospital. Now, it's a fairly rural area, so it's a smaller healthcare system, but it's part of a much larger corporate healthcare system. Anyways, the new cardiologist, which would have been expected, wanted an echocardiogram, and all these tests because I was a new patient of his. Well, as time goes on, get all the stuff done, I get approved for my CDL, so I think everything is okay with me. But although prior to this, I did feel as though something was going on because I didn't feel right at all. So anyways, so I work. So some time goes by, right? And then I told you can go back to about July. I have a video when I was in the hospital. So some time had passed. And I end up in the hospital in Lower Michigan. And they told me I have congestive heart failure. And I was like, well, how can that be? I just had an echocardiogram and everything was fine. Or so I thought. So I get back from the hospital from being in the hospital, and a week later I have an appointment with my family doctor or family practitioner, whatever you want to call it. And this was also a new doctor because I just moved back to the area and I hadn't had a regular doctor. And that appointment had been set up. Well, you know how it is to get into a doctor's office. It takes sometimes months. So that appointment had been set up probably a month and a half to 2 months prior to me ending up in the hospital. I was just need to get a regular doctor. So anyways, I go for my first appointment with this doctor, and he's going over my records, and he says to me, why Oh, hold on, guys. I'll get right back to you. Sorry about that, guys. We had a jogger and his dog coming through, so I didn't feel it was appropriate to film them. Anyways, so when I'm with this new doctor, he asked me what I've been doing about my congestive heart failure since the first reading was done back this winter at this other healthcare system. And I looked at him, and my wife looked at him and said, "What are you talking about?" Because this other healthcare system did not let us know that I was already in congestive heart failure. I was already at 20% or down to 20%, which is in a severe category. And according to FMCSA, I should not have been approved for my CDL. So not only did that doctor put me at risk, but put the general public at risk as well. But anyways, fortunately nothing happened. Everybody was fine. Actually, I hadn't been out trucking at all because I hadn't been feeling well. So at this point I already hadn't trucked for a few months because I was feeling terrible. Anyways, so that's just a little backstory of that. So I go down to the cardiologist appointment that was originally thinking I was going down to have all this work done. And there's been a change of plans. And the change of plan is, well, how do I say this? Okay, so I sit down in his office. Then obviously they did some tests while I was down there. Sit down in his office, and he goes, "Well, I got good news and I got news." Okay, I'll take some good news. Didn't know what the news was going to be, but didn't know what the good news was either. So the good news is they are not going to put a defibrillator pacemaker in me. And they had been watching my heart because my pacemaker is Bluetooth to my phone, and they can get information that way. And they've been watching my heart for the last few months. So one of the things he said was he doesn't want to put a defibrillator in me because he says your heart doesn't go out of rhythm. It doesn't go into AFib or anything like that. So he doesn't feel there's any reason to do that. Now, I thought that was kind of interesting because a couple months ago, I have two different cardiologists. One that watches the electrical part of my heart, all the electrical signals and that part of the heart. And then the other cardiologist, I almost want to call him the regular cardiologist or whatever, but he's the one who watches the blood flow, how the heart's pumping. So it's like I almost got one cardiologist is like an electrician, and the other cardiologist is like a plumber. So the one I'm with at this point is the electrician one, and he's the one that does the pacemaker stuff and whatnot. So he's like, we're not gonna put a defibrillator in you. You don't need it. I'm like, huh, that's exciting. I was like actually very excited about that. Yeah, just super excited about that, to hear that. And I was kind of curious about that because my other cardiologist had said a few months back, he's like, I heard him talking to the pacemaker nurse that he works with that watches my pacemaker as well. And they're kind of saying something and they're curious about. And then this doctor, the electrical doctor, kind of confirmed it. He goes, anyway, we'll get to that. I'm getting ahead of myself here. So anyway, so they're not gonna put the defibrillator in. They're not gonna put whatever the device in that was supposed to track blood flow or whatever. I still don't totally understand that. Anyways, so they're not gonna do them two things, but he's like, I'm still gonna be putting a different pacemaker in you with a third lead, and that pacemaker, or that third lead, will make the bottom of your heart pump stronger so you get better blood flow. But as he's talking to me about this, all of a sudden he gets super quiet, because he's also looking at my charts as he's talking to me about that. He gets super quiet, puts the charts down on the table or the desk, whatever. You know how the patient rooms are. Anyways, starts rifling through them, and he's quiet for like 5 or 10 minutes. And he goes, finally looks at me and says, I need to get another reading. I gotta send you back. We're gonna look at something here. So they send me back to get some more readings. And they got this device that they put over my pacemaker, so we're at this point of the situation. And he's looking at things, and they're making adjustments, and I can feel them making adjustments, because I can feel my heart rate going up and down. And it's really, really a weird feeling. But anyways, finally he looks over at me and he's like, I might not have to cut you open at all. I'm like, huh? Kind of confused. He says, your heart is trying to pace itself, which that's what the pacemaker was put in for originally. I have Mobitz 2. That was developed a couple years ago. My heart rate was down to like 32 beats a minute. Really, really slow. So that's why the pacemaker was put in originally, was to get my heart rate up. Okay? But he goes, it looks like you got an underlying sign that's showing your heart is trying to pace itself. So I'm going to reprogram your current pacemaker to allow your heart to do some of the work. And when your heart doesn't want to do the work, the pacemaker will kick in to do the work. And I'll be honest, I was a little freaked out by this because of the Mobitz 2 situation. And with the Mobitz 2, what that is your heart's not getting the right electrical signal to fire, to pump. So when he's saying he's going to let the heart do some of the work, it kind of scared me a little bit, I'll be honest. Not even a little bit. It scared me a lot, because I'm like, but what about the Mobitz? What about, what? So anyways, after he walked out of the room, the nurse showed me on the screen, showed me my heart doing the work, showing when the pacemaker would kick in and whatnot. So, where are we at on this story here? Okay. So anyways, so they reprogrammed my pacemaker. Basically what they're going to do, he said they're going to do a 3-month test to see, one, because I've got such a low injection fraction, I'm at 15% injection fraction, and being my heart is trying to pace itself, he's thinking that if he lets the heart do some of the work, the heart will strengthen a little bit and it'll push a little more blood. When I heard him say that, I got a little excited because I was like, well, not him, actually it was the nurse who said that. When she was explaining that, I got a little excited. I'm like, could I possibly get back to 100%? I mean, is that kind of what you guys are getting at? She said, no. You got CHF. You're never going to get back to 100%. But if the heart actually strengthens by letting it pace itself, letting it do the work itself, and then the pacemaker kicking in just to take care of when it's not, if the heart gets stronger, you might actually see better blood flow that way because the heart got stronger. So that's good news, I think. So we'll see. After 3 months, I got to go in for more tests, and then they'll make a determination on what my heart's doing and go from there. So we've had some pretty big and interesting developments. One, they weren't, I wasn't expecting the heart to be trying to pace itself, getting electrical signal and wanting to do the work itself. That was not an expected thing at all. So now with this 3-month test, we'll see if the heart gets stronger or not. Now, they did say if you start feeling any symptoms whatsoever, you get a hold of your cardiologist nurse immediately, because they're going to have to put the pacemaker settings back. And so I'll be paying attention to that. Like if I get excessively dizzy or faint or passing out or just different signals. Now, one of the things that has happened since they made this change in setting, now when the pacemaker was doing all the work, I could get about 2 to 2.5 miles in on a walk before I'd be just completely wiped out. Then now, and it hasn't been that long since they've changed up the pacemaker, but since they've done it, and the heart's doing more of the work than the pacemaker is, and it must not be pumping as strong, I don't know. But I get fatigued and wore out at about a mile. So I've lost some ground on my activity part, which I'm not going to complain about, because I'm guessing that if everything goes the way they're thinking it's going to go, I'll gain that back over time. But I don't know if you guys noticed or not on this walk. I mean, the last time we talked about doctor stuff, I was down in that ravine or climbing a hill, and that was hard. I'm just on a walking path that's fairly flat, and it's I'm working this time. I'm working, and it was kind of surprised. I was not expecting, and they didn't inform me that I was probably going to get fatigued quicker again. But when you think about it, if the heart is weak and they're letting it do most of the work at this point, or as much of the work as it can, I'm going to get a little more tired quicker, because the muscle, they're trying to get the heart muscle to strengthen up instead of just relying on the pacemaker. But yeah, so I'm extremely grateful that my heart was actually trying to pace on its own, and I'm excited about this next 3 months. We're already a little bit into it, so I'm sorry I'm behind a little bit here, guys. But anyways, I'm looking forward to this test and seeing what kind of improvements we get. Now, if we don't get any improvements, then at that point, they're like, we're going to put in the other pacemaker, we're going to put in that third lead. It's going to make your heart pump, the bottom of your heart pump stronger, and you're going to feel better. And then with that, I feel like I know I got a few more years left. So, yeah, so even though I get tired quite a bit quicker than I was before, I'm very excited to hear that my heart is trying to work on its own. Very, very grateful. So that's just wanted to give you guys a quick update. And I know this probably wasn't a quick update, but a little explanation and update on what's going on, where we're at, and potentially what's next. So improvement, a little bit. Changes seem to me like a lot. But anyways, guys, I'm going to call this video at this point. I appreciate you coming along. I'm excited to give you guys an update. But remember, like and subscribe. It really helps the channel.